off today with a little quiz just to see where you guys are at. And you guys, if you want to participate, you just raise your hand and we'll see where we're at with our children and who's influencing them and the impact we can make. So who do you think is the most influential person in a child's life? Is it A, the teacher, B, the pastor, C, the parent, or D, the friend? Who do you think? C. You guys are right, yes. And that's why we're all here today, because we do make the most difference in a child's life, academically and beyond. So nobody else can influence, and that's a pretty cool responsibility. It's also a tough responsibility. Next question. What most likely predicts future academic success in a child's life? A, the number of hours at school, B, reading proficiency, C, report card grades, D, attending a top-rated school.
B.
You guys are good, yes. B. Sometimes we can get wrapped up in the school, and while number of hours at school is very important, the most influential is the reading proficiency. How well your child is reading will predict future academic success. That's why it's so important that we're here today. All right, last question. Which of the following is likely to negatively affect a child's reading scores? A, watching 30 minutes of TV per week, watching 1 to 2 hours of TV per week, C, watching 3 to 5 hours of TV per week, or D, watching 10 or more hours of TV per week.
D.
Yes. Now, 10 hours, that seems like, depending on what you're doing, it seems like a lot or it can seem like not very much. But think about over an hour, if you're watching over an hour a day, that's going to impact your child's reading scores. And studies have shown for third graders that have watched more than over an hour a day, it really does impact their reading achievement. So that's where you can make a big influence in the TV watching. It's not only how much, it's what they're watching. Yeah. So sometimes there's some great educational shows that talk about different countries and cultures and animals and things that really expand their knowledge of the world around them. But then there's also, as you know, a lot of junk out there. Yeah, too much. And if that doesn't expand their vocabulary or the knowledge of the world around them. So this is a great place for us to start as parents. Well, you guys are so fortunate because you are here at Sherman where they have the Big on Books program. How many of you have been participating in that program throughout the year? All right. This program is going to build on that, so I called it Building on Books. And so what we're hoping to start is a 4-part workshop series that 4 times a year we're hoping to build upon what you've already been doing. They've been doing a wonderful job, the parent coordinators, and providing books and ideas on how to work with literacy. A lot of the ideas that we're going to share today may not be new to you since you've been already having that experience. We're hoping to build on that and add some new ideas for you so you can dig even deeper into your understanding. We're going to talk about how to support your children's learning at home literacy. We have fun interactive strategies for helping your child become a stronger reader. And you guys are going to take home some free books and game ideas. As you've noticed, there are some materials on your table. We're going to be using those later in the presentation to make some really quick, simple things to help your children at home. So that's why all of that is there, and we're going to have fun together doing those things further into the presentation. Today specifically, we're going to discuss your role, what you can do, how to motivate, literacy tips and tricks, and some technology resources that are free out there for your children to use. Now, how a child learns can be somewhat overwhelming. There are lots of things that go into the structure of reading. So what we wanted, our goal is that it's a tight-knit rope. And there are many strands, many things that take place in order for a child to become good at reading. Some of those things are background knowledge and vocabulary knowledge. And that's where you as parents can really help us out and help their teachers out, is by having conversations at home. Whether they're about books or something else, developing their vocabulary so that when they do encounter those words, they know the meaning because you've used them in your vocabulary at home. There's some other things that the teachers are going to be, that's their job, to help them with their spelling and extending their vocabulary and their fluency. But the home is the #1 starting place for all of this background knowledge that the kids will need to be successful. So as we start off, what can you do to help? Well, at home, you can talk about everything, the world around you. Part of my world around me is cereal boxes, right? In the morning, I have cereal boxes out, or maybe at dinner, I have boxes out. And start with vocabulary that's already in front of you. For example, on this box, we have the word trusted. This is a great word. Talk about what that means. If the kids see you exploring words, they're going to be looking for all sorts of words. Oh, here's whole, what's great. For older children, you can have those conversations about new vocabulary around you. So that's a great way to utilize your home. Have a variety of places for your children to read and do their homework. Some kids really like doing their reading on the couch rather than sitting at a table. Some kids like to lay down on their bed or on the floor. If it's nice outside, they can go sit out on the front porch, wherever they feel comfortable in their reading.
Excuse me, what you supposed to do when you got that kid that you get that book to get ready to read, he get ready to go to school. He do anything he on target or everything, trying to get ready to read. You don't know how to read.
We'll talk about that today. I'm glad you brought that up because motivating a reader is very essential, especially for reluctant readers who don't want to participate in reading. So I'm glad you brought that up. And I'm also glad you spoke up because I want today to be interactive. I want you to feel free to ask questions, shout out. We can learn from one another. I know as a parent, most of what I've learned has been from other parents who've been there and done that, and we can all help each other. So thank you. Well, hopefully we'll get your question answered as we proceed today on how to motivate. We'll talk more in depth about resources, where you can get different types of reading materials in just a moment. Our enthusiasm about reading will transfer to our children. If they see us excited about reading with them, they're going to be excited about reading themselves. Not always, but most of the time, they sense our energy. If they see us reading, they will likely read too. And later we're going to have India McCants come up and chat with us about some support in our community. So if you're still working on your reading skills, there's ways that we can support you. So as we go through, and if you're going, I could brush up on my reading skills, know that we want to provide you that support through our program. And then, last but not least, support and communicate with your child's teacher. And here's some ways you can do that. Questions you have about your child's test scores. Now, how many of you have seen the report cards or seen a reading test score come home from your teacher? If you're like me, sometimes I look at those numbers and they don't mean a thing to me. How many of you felt that way before? I don't know what those scores mean, so I have to ask my teacher, my child's teacher, what do those scores mean? Is my child reading below grade level or at grade level? Beyond grade level, I don't know. So those questions are ones that you can ask. You can also ask what their skills are and skills to improve. Do they know their sight words? Can they read different sounds? We'll talk more about what some skills are that would be appropriate for your child to know today. But don't feel bad or like, oh, I shouldn't be asking, I should already know this. It's okay if you don't know this. I don't know this a lot of times, and we just have to ask and be informed so that we can best help. There are also some resources specifically from your child's school. How many of you are familiar with razkids.com? Wonderful. We'll share a little bit later about the technology resources available, but this is a great starting place. It's free if you have the login and password. How many of you here have the login and password for the Raz Kids program?
I had to read that.
Okay, that's all right if you don't have it memorized.
Okay.
Okay, so about half of you or a third of you might have that. If you don't have it, this is a question to ask your child's teacher before the end of the school year. Can I have the Raz Kids login and password? It's so incredible, and it has skills that are exactly where your child is reading because they've been tested and they know exactly what skills you should know, and it's free. Books from the Journeys curriculum. You should be seeing books coming home that are at the correct level for your child. If you're not seeing that, again, talk to your teacher about it. You guys are also fortunate to have a parent coordinator here. And if you're kind of unsure on how to approach the teacher, what questions to ask, you guys have Renee here.
Yeah, we have a great coordinator.
Yes, yes. Not everybody has that resource at their school, so take advantage of it and use her to help you find the answers you need. All right, so the key here is providing a variety of materials. We're talking about kids who are reluctant readers. They may not have, may not be excited about reading because they haven't had the appropriate types of books in the home. So we'll talk about where you can get these books, what would be appropriate. For a reluctant reader, I got these at the library.
Excuse me, I had
Sure.
to comment on that.
Sure.
My son, he's second grade now. But when he was in K3, K4, K5, he was really good.
Okay.
He started having problems. He stopped reading. I don't know what was said. You're not talking, but now he don't want to read.
Okay.
It's not that he didn't have a proper book.
Sure.
I didn't like every day to read.
Okay.
He just don't want to read.
Okay. So the positive thing is he was reading.
He was.
Okay. And now we need to find him some resources to get him moving. One thing you might try is a CD to listen to.
We do that. We do that. We do that.
Okay. You also might find a topics of interest. So find out what he's interested in. Is he interested in sports? Is
He don't want nothing but
Comic books are good.
Okay, good.
what is CNN,
Okay.
Cartoon Network.
Okay. We'll talk about.
That's all he wants.
That's a comic book, like a comic
And
book.
I tell him he cannot watch TV. He got to read. He go and he try to interact with his daddy. He try to play us against one another.
All right.
There's something wrong. I don't know what.
Let's see if we can answer some of those questions today. And if you're still struggling after we're done today, let's talk one-on-one and see if we can provide some good options for you. Okay? So the variety can be important, whether it be animals or sports figures that they're interested in learning about. The variety can help capture the interest. I know for my son, it's tricky. With boys sometimes, there isn't as much out there for a young boy because they need action, they need adventure, and that's what they're drawn to.
Captain Underpants. What was that? Captain Underpants? That's
Yeah.
a good one for boys.
Exactly.
But my son, he reads that. But when I see him with comic books, I make him read every day.
Okay.
Maybe 30, 40 pages. First thing he pick up is a comic book or that's not a book to me. He'd be so irritated at me and I'd be so irritated at him. Like, it's not a book.
Sure.
It's a comic book. Read a real book and let's go. We knock it out. All it out.
I encourage you, even if it's not something that you totally, and I agree with you, that isn't the best type of literature out there, but if it's grabbing his attention and he's excited about it, I would go ahead and allow that. Say, I know you love these and I want you to read these. Okay, as long as they're appropriate, of
But
course.
it's every book.
Let's
Let's
do
a
it.
library book. That's all he got is.
Let's read 10 minutes of the required books,
And then,
20 minutes of the fun books for you, and try to build a compromise in there.
excuse me, I want to point out something that
Sure.
most of the things you have read at the library,
Uh-huh.
you can also purchase those for like 10 cents, 25 cents at the library downtown at one with the Wisconsin Central Library.
Yes.
You know, the audio, magazines, for people that might not be able to go out and you can afford it.
Yes, thank you. Library is a great place, but I also get books for my kids at Goodwill. I go to Good Resources, rummage sales.
Right.
Swap them with a friend if you know friends with similar age kids. Say, my kids are done with these. You want to trade? So beyond the library, there's some great ways. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So for boys, like I know my son, he's really into Star Wars when he was younger. They have Star Wars books for beginning readers. They have Star Wars books for a little bit advanced, all the way up to adult appropriate Star Wars books. So find a genre or an area of interest for your child, and then you can ask the librarian, do you have any on this topic? I didn't know that they had Star Wars books for little kids, but they do. Again, sports heroes, animals, things like that. All right. We also might want to look at having books with a variety of different levels of difficulty. The most important thing is finding where your child is at, and we mentioned before how to get that information from your child's teacher. But having fiction and nonfiction, I think, is also important. Nonfiction books would be the books with, let me grab this sample here. For example, The Snakes and the Penguins. These nonfiction books are books with facts, or they're books with information in them. So they're reading for information. It's a different purpose than just picking up a comic book, or picking up a magazine, or picking up a phonics book that we'll talk about in a moment. So having a variety, nonfiction and fiction. Today we're going to focus on what decodable pattern and uncontrolled texts are. You may not be familiar with what decodable texts are, but that's an essential place for beginning readers, and we'll dive more into that later. But basically, those are books that have sounds or words that they can sound out. And before you get into advanced books, you'll have to start here and make sure they have the building blocks. And I'll pass around some samples soon so you can see what they look like. All right. How many of you have had a child bring home a book that is too easy for them, and that's all they want to read is the too easy book? Anybody? How many of you have had a child bring home a book that is way too hard? You know that they could never read it, but like Harry Potter, you want to read Harry Potter?
No, that's the total opposite. She tried to read my book.
So the challenge for a lot of families is finding a book that is just right. What are some ideas you have on helping your child finding a book that's just right?
My idea is Dr. Thorne is a list of find Luke, so I follow that list.
Okay. Good. Book finders are good.
I like to basically watch my grandchild and see what she's interested in, what she likes. You know, so basically she likes fairy, princesses, things like that. I kind of find a book that really a motivator, what she's interested in, and then I'll read it to her. And then she'll sit on my lap and try to read it back to me.
Sure.
But I like to find something that she's interested in.
Awesome.
So I can keep that attention.
That attention is a definite starting point. You may have your child read a page to you, and if they're making more than 2 or 3 mistakes on a page, that might be an indicator that the book is too difficult. If they're flying through the book, they read every word, it's too easy. So topic of interest, reading through. If they make 1 or 2 mistakes, that's okay. We all make mistakes, and it could be an appropriate challenge for them. If they're making more than that, choose another book. It may be more appropriate for you to read aloud to them, but maybe not appropriate for them to read themselves. Again, here are some resources to help you in your book selection. All right, what to do when your child does not know a word? For someone who's learning to read, and even for an adult, I know myself, I come to words that are too difficult for me sometimes. And I have to use a strategy to figure out the word. So, yes?
I'm raising a third grader. I have them sound the word out to me. And then we go into the library, a dictionary, and look the word up. So then he'll know what that word actually means.
Wow. You're doing exactly what you need to do. And that's what experts say is to sound out the word, and that would be the most appropriate thing to do. On occasion, a reluctant reader, if you're having them sound out every word in the book, it could become draining for them, and they don't want to read anymore because it's too much work. So you may not have the appropriate book if you're doing that too much. And sometimes kids just need to move on because they get trapped and they know that I don't want to read because if I come to a word I don't know, my parent or my caregiver is going to make me sound out that word, and it becomes anxiety comes with the reading. So you might try a variety of strategies that make sense and feel comfortable for you. Some kids like to tap out the words. So for example, motivating, touch, tap the word, use your finger to help guide you across the page. Motivating your reader. So have them follow with you with a finger or a bookmark.
I was going to point out that here at Sherman, we have, for some of the kids that with the IEP tests, we have a speech therapist, and some of the kids out of the classroom, like on Thursdays and Fridays, like my granddaughter, who has speech and hearing problems there. And they send home packages with us, with a lowercase and uppercase and lowercase numbers, and where you can sound out the words to them.
Okay, perfect. I'm so glad you're taking advantage of those resources because they know exactly what skills, and if you can do that at home, that's
I do it. I signed
wonderful.
up for it, so she sends me a package home every Friday.
Yeah, and so if others of you are receiving those packets home, that's the best thing you can do is follow through with that. Here's some other sounds, other suggestions. What is the first and last sound? So I know this is mo, I know this is clean, mo, tibe, teen. Look at those sounds. Are there patterns that you've seen in other words? Well, I know that ing makes ing. I know that mo is mo. So find parts of the word that they already know. And then what if they said motor, motorcycle? Because they see the mo, they know that, and they make up the rest of the word. Have you seen that before?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, does that make sense? Motorcycle you're reading? No. So that's a question you might ask. Good try. That doesn't make sense. Try it again, and then look at those word cards. All right, here's some extra word games. We're going to make our own here today that are using simple materials. But if you're looking for a good idea for a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, playing with words can be really powerful. Scrabble, try to get the junior edition of these games. Scrabble Junior, Boggle Junior, Apples to Apples Junior is a great one for building vocabulary. And even if you don't play the actual game, they have tile kits. They have the ABC, so you don't have to even follow the directions. You can just move the tiles to make your own games. Yeah, make your own words. So how many of you are involved currently with a school reading program where you sign up on a reading log when the child has to read so many minutes a day? Yeah. So that's a great place to start, is the school reading program, and using that as a way to motivate your reader and set expectations. You get to set that as a caregiver in your home. You get to set that expectation. And if you're consistent with it, the kids are going to get into a routine. If they know that that's just part of your life and you're under your roof, they'll get used to that. I love these statements because you're not telling them what to do. You need to go read for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. You're saying what you're going to allow. Listen to this. You may have free time when your reading is finished. You may watch TV this Friday evening if you've read each day. So you're allowing the TV if they've read each day. Okay? You've allowed the free time when their reading's finished. And so that's a nice way to just gently say, this is what we're expecting. You may have these things when you've accomplished your goals. And then as you know, the summer reading programs at the library, how many of you have participated in the summer reading programs at the library? It's a wonderful way to get free resources for your kids and to set that expectation up here for your kids. I know my kids have really enjoyed it. And instead of me telling them to read, it's the community encouraging that as well. So I know in your Big on Books program you talked about before, during, and after reading, and when we give you some books today, we're going to review some strategies for that. When you read aloud to your child, that is different than them reading to you. So for example, this book, Big Tan Van, that's going to be different. Your book that you read aloud to them may have more, it may be more difficult, and that's okay to use a text that's a little bit more difficult when you're reading aloud to your child. Here's some examples of some great, we were talking about having a variety of books. I have this big book version today. If you're reading to a younger child, they may not know these words, and that's okay, because you can explore together, and the pictures help tell the story, and you'll notice that there's a pattern. And then listening to the pattern of the language over and over really reinforces the reading as well, or their vocabulary. So polar bear, what do you hear? I hear a lion roaring in my ear. Lion, lion, what do you hear? I hear a hippopotamus snorting in my ear. So we're seeing some patterns developing, and it's okay if they start memorizing and they're not really reading it.
That's what I was going to say. I have all of those books.
Yeah.
And what my son do is, we get to one, he go, hippopotamus, what do you hear?
Oh, he'll too.
I hear it.
That's okay. That's okay. He's predicting, trying to predict what's happening
What's
next.
going to happen because she reads to him all the time.
Yeah.
She's to the story.
Yeah, that's all right.
He's a doll anyway.
Predicting is a big skill in reading. trying to anticipate what's going to happen next, and that's what helps make the flow easier. It may not seem like that now. It may seem kind of like he's trying to sneak by, or, yeah. But it gets there.
But you know, rhyming is good too. A lot of them love rhyming. They get some interested into the rhyming.
Yes.
Silly words, funny pictures.
Yeah, so you want to find the rhyming books, the predictable books. This is very predictable, and so this is another example of a variety that you might want to have available. Okay, if your child is reluctant, and I would suggest having a timer. Sometimes with younger children, you have them sit down, and they don't know how long they're going to be there, and they'll start squirming and wanting out of there because they don't know how long you're going to make them be there. So if you have the expectation of 20 minutes a day, and you set the timer, and you're diligent with that, they anticipate there's an ending time, and I can do this. Another tip is to read one page. I read one page, you read another page.
Okay.
I read one sentence, you read another sentence. So taking turns, and you don't have to do this all the time that way, but on those days when you're just really not getting anywhere, I say, okay, we'll take turns. Let's make it easy on everybody. And they learn that way. They learn from hearing your voice and so forth. So as we get into specific skills today, yeah. Oh, thank you. The building blocks of reading. Before reading can be fluent, we looked at that rope at the very beginning, that tight rope with all the skills a child needs to know. These are some building blocks of reading. Phonemic awareness, sounds in a spoken word. Children need to know the sounds that a word, spoken words are made up of several separate small sounds. These individual sounds are called phonemes. And I wouldn't worry about what like the word phonemes, that's a big long word. But the word cat, for example, has 3 of these phonemes or sounds. So for example, cat. So before a child can even read, they need to have knowledge of the alphabet. And most of your children now are older. When we took the poll at the beginning, your children are probably familiar with that already. But if they're struggling, you might want to go back and see, do they know the sounds of the alphabet? Do they have the letter sounds down? Are they ready to build new words yet? So that's a building block. Phonics then is the relationship between the written letters and the sounds. Can they take letters, for example, M, A, and P? Do they know the sounds A, and P? Can they put those sounds together to spell map? So if your child's struggling, you may do some word work. These alphabet letters, similar ones, are at the dollar store. So if they're nice to have on hand for preschoolers and older children as well, to practice spelling words and new patterns. But this is a building block. They have to know this before they can understand what they're reading, before they can expand their vocabulary, before they can read accurately and quickly. The goal is the ability to read text accurately and quickly without making mistakes. And there are words we must know. That's why your conversations with your kids are so important, so they build that vocabulary. And then ultimately, we want them to understand the meaning of the text. That's the most important thing, is can you understand what you're reading? Yeah. So we just talked about the sounds. The ABCs we mentioned, singing songs, the ABC song, making sure they know their sounds, doing word work, building new words with their ABCs is a great place to start. For younger children, you might decide to have an ABC book. This is just a little notebook I picked up. And I wrote the letters of the alphabet at the bottom. Big A, little a. Each page has a different letter at the bottom. And then you can make your own ABC book. So I cut these out of a magazine I had at home, Cake and Cookies. And it's more empowering. You can go buy an ABC book, but when kids get to make it themselves, it's more meaningful. And this is a great way to reinforce the beginning sounds of words and include them in the process.
We have one, really hippie program. And what they do is when they bring the packages out, each one of the packages, when they bring it out maybe per week, they have A, big A, little a, and then when we turn the package in, we take the A out, and they gave it where it was Washington had to make math. We have it where we had to make our own books, and we cut out magazines, my granddaughter and I, and we found things for A, B, C. But we're through now. We just finished the program.
Yeah.
But it was good. We made our own. Like you said, it's fun when you make your own alphabet book
Yes.
and buy one. Let's cut something out of magazine.
And you may think my kids are bigger now. They've known their ABCs for years now. You can modify this. For example, for an older child, D, maybe my child doesn't know how to spell the word demonstrate.
Wow.
So they have their own word book. I'm running out of room here, but you get the idea. Demonstrate. You put this in, maybe some words that you notice that they keep spelling incorrectly, and then have them go get their book and put it in their book. I do this with my daughter. My daughter is in 5th grade now, and we have our own book for her, so that any word I notice that she keeps spelling is not easy for her at all. So we build our own vocabulary book with her, so she has a place to
I wouldn't think you would go that far up, but I didn't even think about
Yeah,
that.
well,
that's
spelling,
what
you know, there's still very new words.
Get this book when
Yeah.
you get older.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at decodable text now. That's where we use our phonics skills. And phonics, again, is it's the relationship between the sounds. We talked about that with phonemes, the sounds and the letters. So instead of just hearing the sounds, we're going to see the letters that represent the sounds. Act, cat. For kids who need movement, you can have them put a finger out for each word and pull it together. Act, pull it together, cat. We have the word relationship. For an older child, that's a big long word. Re-lay-ship. Relationship. We pull it together. We chunk out the word, or crap out the word, or tap out the word. Re-lay-ship. So older students apply their phonics skills to other word parts or prefixes, suffixes, and root words. So if you have a child who's 2nd, 3rd grade, they may know the sounds of the letters, but they may not know the word parts. Like, this is a prefix. This comes before the word. This is the root word. This is what it's all about. Success. And this is the ending part. Full. So we put all that together. Unsuccessful. If a child's struggling with a word, have them find a root word. Success. And then build on that. Unsuccessful. So kids of all ages need to have those basic phonics skills before they can move on. They may know the sounds of the letters, but they may not know the word parts. Like, this is a prefix. This comes before the word. This is the root word. This is what it's all about. Success. And this is the ending part. Full. So we put all that together. Unsuccessful. If a child's struggling with a word, have them find the root word. Success. And then build on that. Unsuccessful. So kids of all ages need to have those basic phonics skills before they can move on. So I'm going to pass out some phonics books. These are decodable texts. They have the code. This is the code. M is represented by the sound A is represented by the letter A. Is represented by the letter P. So in order for a child to grow in their learning, they have to have the foundational skills. I'm going to bring these around. Again, if you're saying, oh, my kid's past that, well, if they're struggling, they may need to go back to something like this, or I can show you some examples for older children as well. So for younger children, this goes back to the basic letters. And if I can get a helper to, pass these around, put some at this table. I would like to give these back, please. I don't have a library guide, so we'll get these back right. And then they go up to word families. So here's some that have the O sound, the words with FR at the beginning. So I'll pass out some samples of these. Yes. Yes. So the reason I'm passing these out is because I want you to know what to look for when you go to the library. These are different from regular books in that the focus is on a specific sound or word pattern or chunk of letters together. And before you can become proficient in picking up just any old book, you need to make sure you have those foundational skills applied. So this is a great
This is like I got to
Remember that pass right there.
you know, what a child should know by second grade, all the words a child should know by second grade. So they just got all of this in there.
Good,
So I'm like,
good, yep.
I goes over all of this, because I got one day eighth grade, I done worked with children, name my daughter, I done worked with children all my life.
Yeah.
And I still got this second grader, and what I do, the under him, I got a 2-year-old, he gets
Okay.
his book and he reads.
Okay. Well, hopefully again, we'll give you some more
I don't
suggestions.
understand what's going on, and what, I feel like a little failure.
No, you're not.
But I know
You're
I'm
here.
not. I know I'm not.
All
I'm
right.
aware of that, but I still want to get it in his head because if I feel like if I don't, he gonna fall.
Yeah.
And I'm trying everywhere I go to get in
So
his
there
head.
are different books for different purposes. Books that you just read aloud to your kids. Books that they read on their own. But before they can read on their own, you have to make sure they have these foundational skills.
Those sounds.
Sounds, simple word patterns, and progress from there.
I understand. When they get stuck, you want them to go, like that.
Yeah.
Pronounce it out on their
Exactly.
own. But I would have to tell them all the time.
After you're finished working with these books and looking at them and getting ideas for books that you might want, if you can just stack them in the middle of your table and I'll collect these a little bit later. But feel free to look at them as much as you need to. We're going to have some fun now. I'd like you to take one of the pieces of paper in front of you and using a piece of construction paper, you should each have a stack of construction paper in the middle of your table. This is a great idea for practicing those sounds. So you just make a tic-tac-toe board, 2 lines down, 2 lines across. And today we're going to make samples of things you can take home. Now, you may say, my child already knows the letter B and T, but this is just you can take this example and use your own letters or your own words at home. So what letters do we normally play tic-tac-toe with? You can practice using different letters. So I've used the uppercase B and T here. Yes.
My grandson and I, we play tic-tac-toe, but we play with the girls.
Yes, I was going to say, for children who already know their alphabet letters and their sounds, put in simple patterned words that they're working on from school, and take turns. You have a word, they have a word, and you take turns plugging in. Perfect way. This is simple. It takes 2 seconds to draw the lines, and you have a fun game to reinforce those skills that they're learning at school. Now, here I've used the lowercase letters, M and G. And it's important to note that letters have more than one, oftentimes letters have more than one sound. So you might brainstorm, think about those words or letters that may have more than one sound. For here, I use there's a hard sound that comes from G. Here is the word giant. It has a softer sound. So you may think about, okay, what other sound, hard G sounds besides goat? Goat, go, got, good, yeah. Yeah, gopher. All right, so brainstorm space, they listen to that sound. Giant, you have giraffe, giant, we already have that one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so chicken, yeah, genius. Practice playing with those letters. I already showed you what my ABC book looks like. Another example is to go on a word hunt. You may take a book and say, we're going to go on a hunt and see how many words we can find that start with F. Oops, my book's falling apart here. Okay, here's flamingo. Can I find another word that starts with F? Oh, I hear a flamingo fluting in my ear. Fluting, I don't think I've heard that word before. Okay, maybe I'm going to go on an L hunt and find lion and so forth. You can even take a text that may be a little challenging and do the same thing. This book's a little more challenging, but you're just looking for words that start with the letter that you're working on. So that would be, let's see if you can find 10 words. Let's see who can find more words, you or me. And make a game out of it. That's a great way to reinforce those skills. we'll talk a moment about memory and Go Fish. We're going to use another piece of construction paper in just a moment, and I'll give you the directions for 3 different games, and then you can choose which one you would like to do at home that would be most appropriate to where your child's at. Again, these are just examples, so that when you go home, you're not trying to say, oh, what was she talking about? I don't even remember anymore. You'll have examples at home to put in your folder. When you get home, you can take it out and make your own according to where your child is learning. So I love these games because there isn't much cost involved. Paper, pencils, scissors, markers. If you don't have these supplies at home, talk to Renee, talk to us at the end of the workshop. We'd like to help you with that. But if most of you may have something like this, let's fold the paper. We're going to fold the paper in half. And again, why don't you wait just a moment before you cut your paper, because I'm going to throw you 3 different examples, and then at the end you can decide which one you want to do. Making a foldable will help reinforce the skills your child is working on. So if you have a kindergarten first grader, you may say, oh, they're working on simple word patterns, a consonant, here's a vowel, and here's a consonant. So at would be my ending sound. I'm going to I'll show you how to cut it in just a moment. So that when I flip it out, I have the word r, at, rat. I'm going to put a different letter on the next strip to make a new word. At, mat. At, sat. Bat, cat, fat, and hat. So you'll see how quick and easy these are to make in just a moment, but it's a great way to reinforce either initial consonant sounds or ending sounds in a word. For children who are a little bit older, you may choose a blend or a beginning sound to work on. 2 letters put together, making one new sound. So instead of saying bull, I'm going to put them together. Bull, bull, hawk, bull, ack, black, bull, ooh, blue, bull, eyed, blind, bull, end. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm covering that up. Blend. So I'll put that up for you to see in just a moment, and if this example is more where your child is at, this might be a good one. And you can use other beginning or ending sounds depending on where your child is at. For older children, like maybe 3rd grade and up, they may be working on more complex patterns. I know when I was working with my child and listening to her read a few years ago, we came to a lot of words in the book that ended with T-I-O-N, and I kind of knew ahead of time. I don't think she knows the sound. She's going to try sounding this out, and it can't be sounded out. We just have to know what this means. So I had to share with her, T-I-O-N made that shun sound. Doesn't look like it, but that's what it is. So if you have a more advanced reader, upper grades, this might be something where you take a word pattern and explore this way. So here we go. Station, vacation, motion, promotion, vocation, and location. All right, and we could go on, but those are some examples. So I'll put these up on the board. You are welcome now to take your scissors, and if we need any more supplies, if we didn't prepare enough, raise your hand and let us know. We'll come around and help you. You'll want to only cut down one side of the paper. It doesn't matter how many slits you make, really. I mean, just however many. Just be careful not to cut through both sides. And then if you goof up and you wanted an ending sound, just flip your paper around. and if you want a beginning sound. So I'll put these up for you to look at. And we'll give you a few minutes to play around and make yourself a sample. We're going to go ahead and move along. You each have a folder, a blue folder, and I'm going to borrow yours. Can I borrow your folder just for a moment? I'll give it right back. Okay. So each of you are given a blue folder. Most of these we'll go over today, most of the examples, but there might be a few other games that we don't get to today that you can see the directions. If you want me for another one of my helpers to read through these with you and make sure you understand how to play these, we can also do that today. So the tic-tac-toe is on there, word hunt. In a moment we'll make a few more games on there as well. Another handout that we're going to focus on next is high frequency words. We've been talking a lot about words that can be sounded out. Not all words can be sounded out. They have to be memorized, or you have to memorize the word pattern. So that's really important. Sometimes we do say to a child, just sound out the word, and it can't be sounded out. You have to help them with the different parts of the word, or it may just have to be memorized. So if everyone could get into their folder and pull out 100 most common words in the written language. We'll focus on that next. Any of the samples you made, you can go ahead and put in your folder for take home later. High frequency words are very important because, like I mentioned, not all words can be sounded out. However, some of these high frequency words can be sounded out. So you'll want to work with your child on, can you sound it out? If so, we want it to become automatic so that when they look at it, they know it. And then we want to have a lot of exposure. So we're going to play a few games today so that on sight, with the snap of a finger, that's how quick your child knows the words. They're listed in the highest order of frequency. If your child knows all of these words, they will have they will know most of the words in the books that they are reading. That's how frequent or how common these words are. So to play with those words, here are some game ideas. Okay, so I chose some words that I'm going to make a game with, but I'm doing this as a sample, so you want to watch and listen carefully so you get some new ideas. In a moment, we're going to use our cards, the 3x5 note cards, to make a few games. And you can use sight words, you can use some of the phonics words that your child is learning, but don't start yet. Get the ideas and then we'll give you some playtime, all right? So I made 2 of each word. For example, they and they. 2 cards of each. And it's nice to have 2 cards of each because you can play a variety of games with them, like memory in just a moment. And from and from. So I just have a set of 6 cards. In a moment, you guys are going to make a set of 20 cards. Now, for a lot of kids like to move. And so I put, for my kids when they were younger, and I've done this with a variety of kids, and I've had teachers who have watched us do this workshop, and they go back and do it in their classrooms. I know it seems really silly. You have to watch and see what this is about. We can put the words on the floor, all over the floor. Or you can put them up on a wall with Post-it notes. But if you have a fly swatter, you don't even get them at the dollar store. As the parent or caregiver, you can say the word and have the child jump on the words or swat it with a fly swatter. Now, this silly thing, it seems like kids love it. They do, and it's better than just standing and doing flashcards with them because they'll get tired of that in 2 minutes. But you get them involved, moving, they'll love it, especially for active kids who need to be moving, right? So if I say the word from, the child will come over and slap it. If I say the word one, so forth, they get a kick out of it. This will engage them for far much longer than just reading it aloud.
So what if you, like, say for instance, you got it like that, with 2 words. Put one word in capital letters and then one in lowercase, find which one is capital letters.
If that's a skill you think your child needs to work on, you can certainly do that. Yeah, so modify it to meet your child's needs. If you don't have that, you could use a ball, and the child could bounce the ball on the words. If you have sidewalk chalk this summer, outside, write the words, the letters, different combinations of sounds your child needs to work on. Have them bounce the ball on the word or practice writing on the sidewalk. So if I say the word out loud from, and I say one, they, the combination of movement can really spark that mind, that help the child connect to the words and memorize. Sometimes memorization comes about more that way. So we're going to now make 2 of each, and we're going to make 2 cards for each letter we choose. So I believe you each have 20 cards. So 20 divided by 2 is 10. So you'll choose 10 different words. Doesn't matter. You can, if you want to remake this game at home using more appropriate words, but just for your sample, choose 10 words, 10 of each, and then I'll show you how to play a memory game. You can use these cards for a variety of games, but we'll just start off with memory. So choose your 10 words, 2 of each. Make the word go big across the page so it's easy to read, or big across the card. Front or back doesn't matter. So that when you leave today, you have a sample of a game. The person who has the turn will pick up 1 word at a time. You have to pick up 2 cards total and say the word. So I pick up the word one. I get 1 more turn. Oh, I picked up the word one. Who knew? I got a match. All right, so I get to keep this. I get to keep this set. The person at the end of the game who has the most pairs of cards is the winner. So kids, this is another wonderful way to practice words. For my daughter, she needed these tools to help her. Just reading books or reading patterns or doing flashcards wasn't enough for her. She needed these extra things, and she enjoyed this more than a lot of other things we've tried. So I'm sharing with you today things that have worked for me and things that have worked for other parents that I've worked with, and I'm hoping you can find something that works.
It's like the more interesting, make it more interesting.
Yeah,
Fun to be more
exactly. And some additional ideas of how to use this according to where your child is reading. All right, if you would go ahead and take out another piece of construction paper, and if you're running out at your table, let us know. We'll make sure you have more. You don't have any more? Okay. With your blank piece of paper, we're coming around with more paper if you need it. You're going to fold that paper in half, like this. You're going to fold it in half again. So we folded it 2 times now. I've lost you? Okay, no, this way. Yeah. I don't know why teachers do this, but they call this the hamburger fold. I don't know. Doesn't look like hamburger, but it's, yeah.
You got sliders.
All right, yeah. So fold in half. Down.
You got
I'll fold in
sliders.
half again. So that's 2 folds, 3 folds, and 4 folds total. When you're finished, you should have 4 folds. Yes.
Big paper.
Okay, another fold.
Yep, you're almost there. No cutting on this one. Oh, you're smart. You're smart. All right. Now, I'm going to reveal to you a bingo game. Whoa! Yeah. Now, how easy is that?
Tell them I do it about bingo game. Now we get a bingo game.
I've used this game.
R-E-D.
Yeah.
Read.
I've used this game with preschoolers. I've used it with junior high kids.
Right.
From preschool to junior high, they love bingo.
Everybody
So
bingo.
you can use this bingo game to write high frequency words from the list that I just provided. You can use letters, different words that they're using, word patterns. For today, let's just use the high frequency words that are in front of you. So use that list and choose 16 words to put 1 word in each box. Okay? You can use your markers at your table to do that. I'm sorry. We're going to move along, and I know that some of you are still making your bingo games, and that's okay. If you don't get finished, you'll have a sample to take with you. You can use raisins, M&Ms, beans, Cheerios, whatever you have at home to use as markers. And then when they get, you can read the word aloud. Get. They find the word, put it on. You can have them spell it. As soon as they put the marker on, they have to spell it. Get. G-E-T. Get. So you can do it a few different ways. You can spell the word and have them find it. You can say the word and have them spell it as they put the marker down. Experiment with different ways to have them verbalize the word to you or put the sounds together. So when you're finished with your sample, awesome. Looking good. Great examples I see out there. That's all right. If you're not on track with me,
I'll
you
let
can
her
catch
write
up.
it for you.
All right.
We share the same kids. So.
All right. That'll work. All right. So even if you're not done, you can just put it in your folder and have it for a sample for later. We're going to hand out some books today, and I'm really excited to share with you some new books to add to your collection at home. Some of you may be familiar with this book, Frog and Toad Are Friends. This would be an appropriate read aloud act for, for any child, but probably more suited for the kindergarten, first grade. I'm going to go ahead and give you both books. Generally speaking, I think you just get one book. When you come, we'll do the two different ones that we'll be sharing with you. And I'll pass those books out in just a moment. How many of you are familiar with the before, during, and after reading model of engaging with your child during a book? Okay, she's familiar. Awesome. So some of you are raising your hands saying you've done this before, you feel good about it. If we need a refresher, in your folders, let's take out the handout on Frog and Toad Are Friends, and I will walk through some of these ideas with you. So the book Frog and Toad Are Friends.
Excuse me, that's a question.
Sure.
Where did you find that board at?
This board right here.
Yeah.
I've had this so long I don't even remember.
I ain't got
They don't have them at the dollar store.
Yeah, I was gonna say you can get similar alphabet letters at the dollar store. You can use on the refrigerator or wherever. Oh yeah. So that might be a good place to start, but.
They don't have dogs now. One wagon. On 76.
A good place to
Right.
start with kids
Right.
when you're reading to them is start with the cover. Talk about what they think is happening. This book happens to be about friendship. So you might discuss with the children, what does friendship mean to you? When is someone being a friend to you? When are you being a friend to someone else? Okay. Then you might go on a picture walk. Why is it important to do a picture walk first, looking at the pictures and turning the pages without reading any words? Why is that important?
I like doing it because I get a chance to explain to my granddaughter about the picture because I want to see that she sees what I see.
Mhm.
When I get ready to read it to her, she'll understand. Why that frog is maybe sitting down having tea, or why another frog might be running or jumping, or why they have the clothes that they have on.
Good. Another idea?
And I also use the picture, like when I read one page and go to the next page, I have to look at the picture so I can really see from the picture.
Exactly.
So I have to connect.
For younger kids, they get distracted by the pictures. So that if they're a beginning reader and they're trying to read this, or you're reading it to them, their mind may be off in La La Land looking at pictures instead of focusing on the words or your finger. So a good place to start with any book is with a pre-reading or before reading activity. Look at the pictures, talk about what you think is happening, what you think will be happening next, predicting. That's where she was talking earlier about my child thinks that he has it all figured out or he's peeking ahead of time. That's good. That's a good skill to have. So that they won't be so distracted. If you're struggling or if you're still learning some reading skills yourself, this is a great way to interact with your child if you don't know all the words, going through and looking at books together, looking at pictures together, discussing the book. So after you've done that pre-reading or that before reading, take a look halfway down on this page. There's some during reading questions that are separated into each section of the book. So this book happens to have 5 different sections. For each section there are some examples for you. That way you're engaging your child during the reading and it helps improve their comprehension. Comprehension is remembering what you've learned, and by having that little dialogue it will help you. And then after reading, another great way to check Are they understanding what I'm reading? At the bottom of that handout, there's some additional questions, and I'll read those to you. How did Toad feel at the beginning of the story? Okay. Why did Frog write the letter to Toad? Okay, so there are some examples that will help you increase the conversation, increase the vocabulary building as you read too. Just wanted to remind you, this may not be appropriate for your child to read on their own. They may not have the building blocks. Remember how we talked about there are different books for different reasons? Mm-hmm. Your child may not be ready for this book yet, and that's okay. Take them back to their letters, their sounds, building new words that they can sound out, and then they can progress to something like this. After you read this to them, and after they have the foundational skills, then they might be able to move on to this. Okay? So the next book that we're going to look at, oh wait, before we do that, I wanted to also mention, this book is great for the younger children in that it reviews the months of the year, the seasons, and the colors. And those are mentioned, most of the months of the year, and these groups are mentioned quite a few times. So this gives you a great opportunity to discuss what happens in Wisconsin during the spring, or what does winter look like here, discussing the 4 seasons, and also I'm going to grab your example here. You can look at the calendar together and flip through and read the names of the months out loud to your children to review that. Having your child using a crayon that corresponds, a color or a crayon or a marker that corresponds with the color that you learned today in your story. So that they're starting to relate to the books that they're reading. All right, so we're going to move on now to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Now this book can be read aloud to any age. But this may be as a child is gaining the skills to read on their own, probably upper, second, third, and then
grade.
Yeah, they might be closer to reading it on their own at that time. So if you take out the handout on Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, that also provides you some discussion questions. For example, you might even talk about why is this man holding a plate and an umbrella? How often do you see that? Why is he doing this? Okay. Looking at the pictures, again, these are very distracting pictures because they're very funny. For those kids who do like the comic book format or do like animation pictures, this is a great way. There's a movie out on this book. That's another way to motivate a reader, is saying, we're going to read this book together, and then you can watch the movie, but not until we've done the book and the book activities and things like that. So ways to engage. So going through, asking questions, why do you think that people are happy with this food falling from the sky? What are the benefits of having the food fall from the sky? I can think of quite a few benefits, right? What are the disadvantages?
It's free.
Yeah, exactly. What are the disadvantages of having the food fall from the sky? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Gotta clean up.
Yeah, so already, without even reading a word, we can start having discussions that get your reader to start thinking about and interacting with their book. So during the reading, they're going to find out that there's a problem and they have to leave their town. I shouldn't be giving it away, right? You haven't read it yet. So you might have those discussions. Is that a good idea? Are they making the right decision?
Those donuts?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Those are donuts. Yeah. So you can see how engaging children would be just with the pictures alone and how silly this story is. Yeah. And then after reading, they do their organized system.
I never saw that.
It's a cute one. What do people do with the leftovers? So we're down here at the bottom of the page. After reading, why did they do what they did with the leftovers? Why did the people leave the town? What was the biggest challenge they faced? Would you want to go back to Chew and Swallow? Chew and Swallow is the name of the town.
Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
the Chew and Swallow.
Yeah. So those are some examples of how to interact after. I love this book because it has compound words in it. So you might discuss with your child, and on the right-hand side of your handout, you'll see some examples of compound words. Even in the title of the book, we have a compound word. It's when two words come together to make one new word. We have meat and balls. Bring it together. We have meatballs. So on the right-hand side of your handout, you'll see the examples of some other words. Discuss that with them. Bedtime, schoolhouse, so forth.
And the extra ideas, don't forget the extra ideas.
Yeah.
Got down here too, extra ideas. I guess you can say Claudia with a chance to eat something.
Yeah. Happen.
Claudia with a chance to tacos, my friend.
Exactly. Kids like coming up with their own stories. Yeah, I like yours. So she thought of Cloudy with a chance of gumdrops. So allow your child to make up their own ending to the story, or their own, instead of meatballs, what would you like to have fall from the sky? And draw a picture that goes with it, or write your own story.
I think that was good. I like
Love
that.
that. It's a way to extend the reading with your child and have them create new meanings. So, we've talked about phonics today, the sounds and the letters. We've talked about high frequency words, the importance of that. There are some wonderful sites out there, and this is in a handout called Literacy Websites for Parents, if you want to pull that handout out. On that, there's starfall.com, and I'm not connected to the internet today, or I would show you. I do have a few slides that will demonstrate this. On your handout, find starfall.com and put a star by it, because this is my very favorite website. Starfall is appropriate for, Okay, so this is the one you're looking for, Literacy Websites for Parents. It's the second one down. The second one down says Starfall. Put a star by it. The reason I love this is that it is free. There's no password required, and it reviews. Hang on just a second here. It reviews the letters and the sounds. It's appropriate for pre-K all the way up to third, and if your child is still struggling beyond that, they could still use this site. But it has a section that will go over the sounds, and if you yourself aren't sure what sounds the letters make, this might be a good place for you to work with your child. After they've learned the sounds and they're ready to put the sounds together, the letters together to make new words, they can interact. These happen to be books from the Starfall series. And each book that I have here is online to read. You click on the story and interact with the text. So what you see here is what you see on the screen, and it's all for free. So back to the letters, this is what the screen will look like for the letters. You would click on a letter, and there's animation and interaction, and you get to hear the sounds, and a great way to reinforce what the kids are learning. When they're ready to go on to the books, like I mentioned, the samples I have here are the samples of the books. Here are games that reinforce the sounds. So we have ending sound consonants, which is great for rhyming and reinforcing those phonics skills, and little movies that go with it. So there's a lot of interaction here, again for free. This is my top website recommendation. For those of you who have the Raz Kids website, I'm going backwards here on my slide. We mentioned at the beginning that each of you should have a username and password. If you don't, get that as soon as possible for your child this summer. I'm hoping that you'll be able to modify, change some of the ideas I gave you to meet the needs of your child. We all need to support one another, right? We can't do it on ourselves, and I hope you have some new tools to do that.